Hey there. So we've got an interesting 2-week forecast coming up. There will be separate forecasts according to each sign. But this particular video, I'm going to be looking at the energies that we're going through from the new moon in Gemini right the way through to the full moon in Sagittarius. What I mean is what's going on between the 27th of May right the way up to the 11th of June 2025. Now, you may have already seen my new moon in Gemini video, and it does talk about there's just so much air in that chart. It's unreal. And so we are definitely coming into this very, very light time. And it is the light, the sense of bounce, the sense of communication that is absolutely, I think, really filtering through this 2 weeks that are coming up. But one thing to really bear in mind is the full moon in Sagittarius is deeply fiery, and all the air themes seem to just kind of drop off. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you a quick peek at the new moon in Gemini, also a look at the full moon in Sagittarius, and also talk about the ebbs and flows of this 2-week period ahead. Let's not forget that Saturn has literally just today, in fact, gone into the sign of Aries. So we've got some big, big moves and shakes. And let's not forget that Jupiter is also changing signs during this 2-week forecast. Literally just 2 days before the full moon, Jupiter goes into the sign of Cancer. So, that's the two, Jupiter and Saturn that appear to be like planets with a very oppositional energy to each other. One is expansive, the other is contracting, and they are both in a very tight square at this moment in time, which will get to its exact square on the 15th of June. So these are really strong times. I'm really looking forward to that square between Jupiter and Saturn easing off after the 15th of June, because it's been with us for since last summer. So I think that's going to be really helpful. But, in this 2-week forecast, we have got the energies of a new Saturn and a new Jupiter coming in, kind of squeezing us, expanding us. And I think, as you'll see, as I go through each of these charts, that yes, there is this squeezing so that we can expand. Where we feel tight, we need to feel that relief and to shake things off. And let's not forget, actually, that Uranus then changes signs in July, on July the 7th. So that really is a massive shake-off. But anyway, let's have a look at these charts. New moon to full moon forecast. Look, there's loads of me. So I wonder if I can do that pose again. There we go. It really is me. So let's have a look. So we are going from this air feeling here, where things are light, they're bright. And of course, one of the things with air energy is it maybe doesn't seem that substantial. It's something that's just sort of communicated, and it's very fluid and very, very quick. And it can, it leaves a very light imprint. We're moving to this more fiery energy that is, I think, awakening us, and it's bringing out this call to action. I really get action with these fiery tones. So let's see what's coming up. So the new moon in Gemini then. I guess the overall feelings, and again, I have done a separate video about this, but as a summary for this video, this is deeply airy. We've got the sun and the moon at 6 degrees in the sign of Gemini, in a conjunction with Mercury in his own sign, in the sign of Gemini. Also in a conjunction with Uranus. I mean, Uranus is actually just still in the tail end of Taurus, but they're all really working together. And, Mercury and Uranus are both planets to do with communication and consciousness. Obviously, Mercury is the terrestrial version, and I think Uranus is the celestial version of communication, and as such is very sort of channely. I mean, if you look at Uranus's symbol, it does actually look like some form of satellite. Or something that you might see from Space Invaders. So it is connecting us outside of our usual earthly consciousness and somewhere just a little bit beyond that. So yeah, this new moon in the sign of Gemini, which obviously has a lot to do with thinking, communications. It's very, very social, very friendly and gregarious, and it absolutely is aggregating information from all over the place. So this is a very informational, sort of light codes kind of new moon. And let's not forget, it's also in a lovely, lovely and super transforming trine to Pluto, which is also in an air sign. We've also got Jupiter later on in this in an air sign. So that's a lot. That's 5 in the signs, in the air signs. We've also got this lovely supportive sextile, the union of Saturn and Neptune here, combined with their sort of connection with Pluto and also this new moon stellium. To me, this is really showing that things are moving fast, they are transforming, and they are, I think, giving us a sense of deep informational change. All of the important information that we might need, I think, is coming out. So it occurs to me that there may be a lot of information that is coming up in our consciousness. Are we going to get some kind of notification from world governments? The fact that I've said world governments as if they are the arbiters of information, I don't necessarily believe that, but I do notice that what goes on in the world and what is communicated to us via news, via socials, via films and music and celebrity, they seem to determine to us what's going on. Now, I actually think this is also very, very independent. The air signs are super independent. I mean, Gemini is actually very social, but the idea of air is it's not really trappable. You can't really, you can't really grasp onto the air signs very much. And Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, I think, is really setting this sort of precedent that we are going into times where we need to be intellectually independent, where we need to be able to think our own thoughts and actually think outside of any thoughts that are coming to us from outside entities. And there's nothing to say you can't later agree with them, but what I really see is the necessity to filter things through our own consciousness and through our own sense of divine knowing. I do think this is going to switch us on to something very, very fast. And it really wouldn't surprise me if there's a rapid fire or a rapid drop of information that comes to us really, really quickly. So the full moon in Sagittarius then, wow. So the sun is still in the sign of Gemini, but look, where are all the air signs? So we had 5 in the air signs at the time of the new moon. Now we've literally just got the sun and Pluto. And is there someone else? Nope. It's just Pluto and the sun in air signs. You see, Jupiter's just budged over into Cancer. Mercury's also in the sign of Cancer. Uranus is still in the sign of Taurus. We've just got 2 elements. Two planets in the element of air. And the most, the element that is most represented in this chart is the fire. So we've got newly moved over Saturn and Neptune, both 1 and 2 degrees in the sign of Aries. We've also got Mars right at the tail end of Leo. We've also got Chiron. Let's not forget about him. He's been in Aries since 2018. And we've also got the moon in the sign of Sagittarius. So yeah, this is super fiery. So really what I see happening at this particular time is all of the thoughts that have possibly shocked us, because the new moon was also in a stellium with Uranus. So this influx of new energy and the fluidness, even though we normally think of fluidity with water, the fluidness of air, the fact that we really can't grasp it, this information coming from all angles now at the time of the full moon in Sagittarius, at the time when people are feeling actually like they've probably had enough, because at the time of the full moon we get really kind of big. Everything seems to come at us. At that time it feels like it's time for us to take bold action. We've got this grand trine between the moon, Mars and Chiron. I'm trying to get my words out. So look, you can see it here, the moon, then Mars and Chiron. It's a really beautiful trine. In fact, Chiron and Mars are exactly both at 26 degrees, are working together. Chiron is the wounded healer. He is all about our hang-ups, our insecurities, all that stuff from childhood. And the moon often shows us our sense of fragility and our sense of vulnerability and insecurities. It really can show that childlike part of us. And so these are working together. It's like we've got full access to the past. And then Mars is really urging us to take action, to really take action so that we can really express ourselves. So that feels like, the moon is ready to feel and to take action on feelings. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure that if I say this, you'll be nodding your head at some point. I know that when I've taken action, when I've had really strong feelings, sometimes that has gone a little bit wrong. I mean, one of the worst things you can do, I think, is, and I know this from my past experience, is drink. Like if you're really feeling emotional, like hyper emotional, and you take something like drink and it numbs your sense of discernment, boy, oh boy, can you make some big mistakes. So, the rapid energy of the processing of these hurt feelings and us taking action at the time of the full moon, a time when drunkenness and like when we are absolutely kind of stretched to our limits, to me that feels a little not intimidating, but I think it's a time when we really do want to be in control of our feelings, so that the things that we are releasing, we're not doing it in a way that's going to harm us, that we might come to find a better way. But this fire energy is really, really kind of whipping us up into a frenzy. Now we've got this grand square also to look at between the sun and the moon in their opposition. And of course, the nodes are always in opposition to each other. We've got the south node here, representing, I guess, some people say it's the past, our sense of past karma and what we've known about ourselves, what we've experienced, maybe where we find things a bit easy because we've already learnt several lessons about it. And the north node really connecting us to our future destiny, our future challenges, the future lessons we might be needing to learn. And so this is an interesting and quite tight. There's just 3 degrees or less than 3 degrees difference between, the sun and the moon and the nodes. But they are absolutely working in these very sort of rigid squares. Now, there's something that people talk about, mainly evolutionary astrologers, they talk about skipped steps. And so you'll find if in your birth chart you've got your nodes in a square to a particular planet, that planet is supposed to represent a skipped step that you've taken in your evolution. Maybe you've come into this life and there's the evidence of a skipped step. It maybe shows what you haven't attended to in your past life. If you have a past life focus, if that's your model of how things work in the world, that might not be. And if not, you might think, okay, well, this is representing a skipped step, that maybe there's things that I haven't really attended to in my life up till now. And now is the time that is presenting us with an opportunity to attend to what we haven't really fully embraced, considered, learnt from, and let go of. And so it's interesting at the time of this full moon, this very fiery full moon, that you could say collectively, because obviously this isn't your chart or my chart, it will be the chart of anyone born at this exact time, but this is the collective waters that we're swimming in right now. This could be a collective skipped step. Now, there's a fantastic blog piece, actually, that if you're interested in knowing more, I would go to saturnseason.com. Because saturnseason.com, if you type in saturnseason.com and type in skip step, it will bring you up. It's a really great demonstration. It's a really lovely explanation. But skip step, the astrologer behind skip step, saturnseason.com, they suggest you turn the dial anti-clockwise. If you imagine you're moving, hang on one second. I need to make sure I'm turning my hands the right way on my screen. I realize I don't really turn my hands in a way that's very helpful, but let me sort of describe this. If we were to turn, yes, anti-clockwise. Yeah, so we need to we need to turn, if we were to move the nodes here anti-clockwise until they touched one of these skipped step planets, the south node would come to the moon and the north node would come to the sun. Now, what is suggested here, that to relieve the skipped step planet, so obviously this moon here, we would need to look at the past, the south node, and what the past lessons have shown us, and to get a sense of what we're coming up to in our learning and how to relieve that skip step. We have to look to the future. Now, obviously, with this particular scenario, and this is a collective scenario, like I said, we've got both of these planets working through this energy at the same time. So, you can't just do one. You need to look at both at the same time. Now, in terms of this full moon, any big emotions that we've got going on, and of course, you can see that we've got this highly emotional and take action on your emotions energy with this grand trine. But the moon, our emotions are kind of really ruling us. So we might want to ask ourselves, well, how has that worked for us in the past? How have emotional displays worked in the past? Were there some emotional displays that need to be cleared up? Where has our emotional immaturity taken us and maybe made us go in the wrong direction? Where have we got some leftover remnant stuff from getting emotionally charged in the past? Now, this is also in the sign of Sagittarius, and so there's definitely an element of freedom and truth. Where have we got emotional about our freedom and truth and our fight for freedom and truth? And where in the past has it gone wrong? Maybe we've been fighting for our freedom and our truth, and yet the way we've done it has actually done us a disservice. It hasn't gone very well. And then if we look at the sun, and of course the sun is, in opposition to, the moon is about us and our feelings. And I think, that the moon can really show our feelings from what has happened around us, so stuff outside of us is kind of impacting. Whereas the sun is emitting, the sun is about being yourself and really emitting who you are. It really is shining the light. It's examining things with full consciousness. And I was talking about triastral astrology recently in this fantastic book called Astrology and the Games That People Play by Spencer Grendal. I love it. And it talks about the sun as, our ability to be assertive, but not to have to go into these childhood, you hurt me kind of things, or victimhood, and not to go into like aggression, but to stand in our assertiveness. And so seeing Saturn coming into here in the sign of Gemini, what I really see in Gemini is facts. It's us being together in facts, not getting emotional. And the Sagittarius way of working through things isn't about facts necessarily. It's about context. And so I think, when feelings and context get together, it can get quite messy. Whereas, assertive facts and looking at things from a factual perspective and a more rational perspective. And, to be honest, I rarely say, oh, let's be rational. A lot more, let's be intuition, let's have our intuition ruling the roost. But this is really suggesting that our way forwards collectively is to rely on factual energy and being sort of rational but assertive, not to be calling names, not to be emotional, not to be heavy-handed and like lay on guilt trips and this, that, and the other. This is asking us to just stand strong from a calm, assertive, and intellectually precise perspective. But this is still definitely telling us to take action. So this is fiery. It's a time to act. We're actively manifesting as well. We really need to be mindful of what we're manifesting in. If we're pulling on our emotions and letting our emotions kind of dictate, we're not going to be moving on from the past. We're just going to be replicating the past and manifesting the past with all of its problems and all of its difficulties, but not really finding the true freedom that comes from this full moon, which could be coming into freedom and truth. And if we're not able to stand as an adult who's not asking to be looked after, who's not asking for anything other than actually kind of claiming, this is who I am. I'm taking up my space. I don't need to apologize. And I'm actually ready to have a man-to-man or a woman-to-woman or whatever, like an adult-to-adult communication. I'm ready to have a conversation that is not going to get stupid or banal. So I think, like obviously full moons are times when lots of things can get said that, we have difficulty retracting after. This could, lead us into some dangerous territories. But if we are able to stay cool with this, I think, big change can come from this. So ultimately, going back to this air to fire, this is kind of passive, where like information is coming to us and, we're possibly shocked by it. We're possibly amused by it and surprised by it, given that it's, connected with Uranus as well. Yeah. But then there is this kind of time to use it and to create action and, commit to a path from this. Now, I also like to have a look at the energies from new moon to full moon, just to really give you that sense. And so at the time of the new moon, so this new moon in Gemini, it's a time when we tend to let go of everything, and leading up to it, we're letting go of patterns. We're noticing what isn't quite working for us and thinking to ourselves, okay, yeah, I must let go of that. Actually, leading into this new moon, we're kind of blind to it, because the sky is getting darker and darker and darker, and we are having to be our own light in ourselves, so this is a deeply intuitive time. So, when all this information, all this airy energy is coming into us, it's at a time when we're, hopefully quite open. So there's a bit of a space for new stuff to come in. And we're also in quite an intuitive place. It is coming in at a time when, when we're unencumbered by lots of sort of heavy thoughts and things. So this could really create an internal change. This is really internal until the first quarter, which is halfway through this period. So in this first week of the 2-week forecast, I really think we're intuitively reacting and understanding what new information coming into us is going to mean. Like, what does that mean about our lives? What does that mean about our communities, our work, our family, our love, ourselves, our own health? And then in the second part, things are starting to pick up pace. The light is starting to come back. You'll see that everything is getting a little bit more illuminated. We are starting to react from that place of, we've taken in the messages, we've listened to them, and now we're starting to get fired up. So I think in this latter part of this 2-week forecast period, we're starting to move faster with a lot more confidence, which is a real fire sign energy. The confidence is coming in. Jupiter changes signs as well, which is, Jupiter is going into the sign of Cancer, which is absolutely about the moon. The moon is ruled by the sign of Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. He's very happy there. So yeah, this is very, the Jupiter expansion energy is going to be really, really hot at this time, even though it's in Cancer, which is kind of watery. But, Jupiter energy is, coming on. He'll be very relieved, to come out of the sign of Gemini. Jupiter is absolutely at his detriment in the sign of Jupiter, in the sign of Gemini. He's really not confident. So he's coming back. The context is coming back. That sense of faith, that sense of, what do you need? It's coming back. And then around the time of the full moon, we are fired up. We're really in that sort of passionate, confident state. I like it. One last view of this particular period is also, and you'll see this in the separate forecasts that I do for every sign of the zodiac for each 2-week period, from new moon to full moon and from full moon to new moon. I will be looking at the new moon chart, the first quarter chart, which is on the 3rd of June, and also the full moon chart on the 11th of June. I'll be doing that for all 12 signs. But just to explain it here, we got, if you look in this first week, I've put down the notable energies. So in particular, on the day of the new moon, there's a Mercury in an exact trine to Pluto. So information is key. Boy, oh boy, is there lots of stuff coming out, stuff that could really change the way we think about things. And we got the Mercury Cazimi on Friday the 30th. And again, thinking is going to be absolutely highlighted. There's an opportunity for you to have this kind of real, I've got an idea, which I think will be helpful. And then on Sunday, the 1st of June, there's Venus in a conjunction to Chiron, which I think is a pretty big one. This is quite helpful for us. This is the energy of forgiveness and self-love and flow, connecting with Chiron. This is, I think, an opportunity to release. And Jupiter in a semi-sextile to Uranus, an exact semi-sextile. The expansion, both of these planets are very expanding and liberating. So I think our feelings, our sense of self-appreciation, we're about to find some liberty with that. I love that. But look how much more is coming in this second week. Again, the first week is a lot more internal. We're reflecting. In the second week, that's when all the, when we're going at it, it's really hardcore. So let me just quickly run through. So the 5th, I mean, I'd love to say which are the biggest days, but you can see throughout the whole of that week, there's a lot going on. But the 5th of June has got 3 things going on. Venus in a sextile to Jupiter, really supportive. It's really helping us to really feel good where we are. Mercury in a square to the North Node. He'll also be in a square to the South Node. So, yeah, we may have things to learn, some important lessons to learn around that time. And Mercury in a sextile to Mars is helping us. So all 3 of these, I think, are helping us to take action on something that we've known from the past that maybe isn't part of our future, and to have the humility and the sort of self-forgiveness and forgiveness for others. I think the 5th of June is quite helpful. The 6th of June, Venus goes into Taurus. She rules the sign of Taurus. So we'll see a lot more kindness and humility and gentleness towards ourselves at that time. And Mercury is also in a sextile to Chiron. So the 6th of June is really helpful for you to integrate anything that you're thinking about yourself, and to feel that forgiveness, to give yourself a break. Most of us that watch, I know if you're part of this Feel Good astrology community or subscribers, if you're following this, the chances are you're a really kind person that puts other people first. I'm absolutely certain of that. So this day will be really, really helpful. This is your opportunity to recognize where you might have suffered in helping people. So, I'm not saying give yourself a pat on the back. I'm saying, give yourself a hug. Just really recognize yourself for a moment. Now, the 8th of June, that's Sunday. I've got a lovely conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter. I actually really love this trajectory too. I just think this is really, really helpful. Mercury and Jupiter coming together. They are planets that are usually, the signs that they rule are in opposition, but the 2 of them coming together, I think, is going to give you a much greater sense of information. So you've got the facts, you've got the contextual information, and you can see how it works together. So there are so many people that are black and white, this is how it is, and so many people that are just contextual and ignoring the black and white. But there is this beautiful balance. And on that day, Mercury comes into Cancer as well. Then on June the 9th, there's lots of stuff going on. Jupiter goes into Cancer. So, in this last week, you've got Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter all changing signs. Boom, boom, boom. Mercury in a square to Saturn, Venus in a square to Pluto. These are hard energies. And then Mercury square Neptune. So, we are really challenged on the 9th. It feels like things are shifting. And then just before the full moon in Sagittarius, Mars goes into a trine with Chiron. To me, we are learning so much about ourselves. And just before this full moon, it feels like, okay, it's time to release. Why am I holding on to all this stuff? Why? Who does it serve to weigh myself down with doubts, insecurities, pain from the past? And so I just think, from the 10th of June coming into the time of the full moon in Sagittarius, we are really ready to take whatever action we feel is going to help us vocalize and to say, I am here. Now, again, it doesn't have to be angry. Just because you get fired up internally doesn't mean to say it comes out as anger. But I guess what I really see is that we're just all standing. We're standing for ourselves, not necessarily everyone else, but we are standing for ourselves. We are coming into this huge, huge time of sovereignty, personal sovereignty. Saturn and Neptune in the first couple of degrees of Aries. We're in a journey of self-reliance. So yeah, I think this is a very, very important 2-week forecast. There's just so much going on. Last couple of things I just want to share. First of all, I will be doing the separate forecasts on my channel for you to listen to, where I'll give an update about this very information and how you might deal with it from the perspective of being an Aries or an Aries ascendant. And you can change that for whatever sign of the zodiac you are. But if you want an even deeper look at what might be going on for you, I have a membership, which I may have mentioned before. It's at school.com/feel good astrology. It costs $22 a month. You do also get a 1 week free trial just to, check in, have a look, see if it's your vibe or not. And it might not be, and that's absolutely fine. Fortnightly forecast for all 12 signs. So you get a love and relationship, I think I call it the relationship and connection forecast, but it's about all aspects of love. And there's also a career and ambitions forecast, which also encapsulates money. So you could say love and money, and you get that every new moon and every full moon for all 12 signs of the zodiac. So for instance, I think these forecasts are great for your sun sign and your ascendant sign. For me, I'm a Scorpio ascendant, sun in Sagittarius. That would be great. I could listen to the Sagittarius and Scorpio versions. So there's four readings every single month. And you can times it by the 2 star signs that you're looking at. You can also check out the signs for your partner, your children. So that can also give you a heads up. I'm starting this as of tomorrow. So there's also going to be a daily 5-minute forecast for the day ahead. Now, I'm doing it Monday to Friday, so it's just weekdays, but I'll be posting it the day before because we're all in different time zones. Some of my members are in like New Zealand and Australia, and then I've got one in Hawaii too. So I'll be posting them the day before so that everyone can, get their daily forecast. I also do 2 live groupinars, I've called them. So it's like a group meetup where we talk about a particular subject. In the last couple of groupinars, I've spoken about triastral astrology, how to look at the parent, adult, child within your chart and how to make sense of it in terms of your childhood, what the dynamics with your parents, the dynamics with children if you've got them, and how that all impacts you. The time before that, I spoke about Saturn in Aries through everyone's chart. So they're really practical, but they're also a discussion between us all. So we all get to participate and we're all learning. So that's quite helpful. And then the replays go into the group as well. So if you're not able to turn up, they're there. I'm also, as of tomorrow, starting a morning drop-in. So I'll be recording UK time for half an hour in the morning in my studio, and you'll have a link for it. And you can pop in, you can watch, you can ask questions, you can become part of it if you want. But it's my way of just being available at the same time every day. Again, Monday to Friday is not every day, but so if you do want to interact with me, there's the opportunity. There's also 20% off all consultations and selected products. And loads of extra stuff as well. So for instance, I sometimes release things early to my group. And also if you wanted to support the channel, then you get to do that as well. So that's something that may well be of help. And talking about people who support the channel, this is where I want to end this show today, is I just want to thank everybody who supports me in different ways, whether you buy me a coffee, whether you subscribe every month, whether you are a member. There's just so many different ways. And I really appreciate you all. You really, really do make a difference. Thank you so much. So there you have it. That's the end of my 2-week forecast. That's the overview for all signs of the zodiac. Now, if you're interested to drill down a little bit deeper, check out your sign for, your ascendant sign or your sun sign for the next 2 weeks ahead. And, if I can be of any help, you want a consultation or whatever, just check out everything in the description box below. But anyway, have a great one. This is definitely an active one, from air to fire, from ideas to taking action. Lots of love. Bye for now.